Hey guys, what's up? Today I can finally share with you my new black and white Fujifilm recipe that I have developed over the last half a year. I have tested it in different lighting scenarios and extreme fast conditions like street photography. How it works and what it has to do with the actor Jeff Bridges you will find out in this video. Like many people, I know Jeff Bridges since its outstanding performance as the dude in The Big Lebowski. As a child, I found his character really strange but extremely hilarious, and I thought at the time, haha, what a loser, I will never end up like him. Oh. Fuck. You could say I immediately became a fan of Jeff Bridges and his roles. But what has Jeff Bridges to do with my recipe? What many here may not know is that Jeff is an excellent film photographer. He has taken many behind the scenes photos from the 16 films he has been in. From all these behind the scenes photos, he then put together a book at the end of each movie production and gave it to the cast as a memento of the time they spent together. How nice is that? He takes all the pictures with his special panorama camera from Widelux. The Widelux has a moving lens that does not capture the entire image, but rather from one side to the other. As film stock, he mostly uses Kodak T-Max 3200, which gives him a high contrast look with extra grain. The focus of the exposure is on the main subject, and the other areas may be burned out or even can be underexposed. I think he chooses this film because the Widelux is quite limited in its functions. I absolutely fell in love with this look, and it was the reason I started working on this recipe in the first place. Another reason was that my wife started shooting photography herself and she needed a good black and white recipe because she's an absolute fan of monochrome pictures. By the way, I marked the photos of my wife with a W in the lower corner. Since I don't have Jeff's camera, nor can my city offer a similar Hollywood feeling, I used street photography as an example what you can expect from my recipe. As you can see, I have already come pretty close to his look. As a basis, I have taken my own film recipe and set everything from there. If you don't know my other recipe yet, then please take a look. By the way, I even have the next recipe in the works, but it will be a surprise, so if you don't want to miss this, then please subscribe. With this recipe, it doesn't matter which sensor generation you have, it should be worked with all Fujifilm cameras. I have forgotten to give the last recipe a name, but I call this one the Dude. I'm showing it now, and as always you can pause and take a screenshot of it. I will briefly answer a few questions that frequently come up in the last recipe. If the camera is set to any kind of automatic mode, we need to tell the light meter that you want to overexpose. Set the exposure for the situation as it looks right to you. The histogram can help you with this. You can see that you are overexposing here on the side of your display. The R400 should be on, but it can only be activated if you choose Auto ISO. Before that, it's simply grayed out. If you want to use manual ISO, on X-Trans 2 your minimum ISO is 800 and on X-Transform it is ISO 640. This is now the minimum ISO you can choose. So set your exposure speed accordingly and choose manual and electronic shutter. And as always, this recipe is only a suggestion. So if you want to set something else, then please do it. The grain in Fujifilm cameras before X-Transform looks pretty bad compared to real grain. So I switched to turn off the grand function completely and add it later in Lightroom or Capture One. But if you want to avoid this step, then set the Fuji internal grain back to the strongest level. One trick I learned from JRegular is to use XRAW Studio. So if you accidentally overexpose or underexpose an image, you can save it with the software. But you have to shoot RAW and JPEG. Change the USB connectivity settings in your camera. Then you have to connect the camera with your computer. After you open XRAW Studio, you can find the exposure and other settings on the right side. These are all the same settings that your Fujifilm camera has. There you can even set a recipe and send it to the camera, or save the recipe for later. As you can see here in this example, you can still save slightly overexposed images and keep the Fuji look. If you like this recipe, then please like, share and subscribe, because this recipe means a lot of work for me and that's the best way you can support me. Thanks again to Hollyland for sending me the Lark 150 wireless microphone system. Everything you see in this video and everything you hear in this video, it's recorded with the Lark system. And even the dude has a Lark system.
Also, whenever these guys call, what if it's during a game?
The cool thing is you have two of these small transmitting units, so you can record exciting dialogues. Yo dog, nice shirt. Oh, good thing we talked about it.
Yum, 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 yum.
Or you can put these transmitters on your arms and make some stunning camera ASMR. Goosebumps. Okay, that's enough. It was just a little fun. That's it for today, guys. And as always, you can tag me on Instagram when you have made cool results with my recipe. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye.